Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of This Is HCD. My name is Gerry Scullion and I'm a human-centred service design practitioner based in the beautiful city of Dublin, Ireland. Now, today we're diving into a topic that is pretty much on every designer's feed on LinkedIn and everywhere else right now, and that's AI and UX, or AI and design generally. Not the hype, not the doom, but the practical reality of what it means for our work. I train service design and AI, and I've had these conversations over the last year or two. Really, what does it mean for us as we are scaling our own businesses, if you're working like myself, or if you're working in an organization and AI is now being discussed, potentially even about replacing us? How do we handle those conversations? This is what I covered off today with our guest, Behrad, who is the founder of Bonanza Design and the host of the UX for AI podcast. He's been deep in the weeds using AI in real client projects, from research and data sense making through to agents, automation, and building modern applications. He is fantastic. And in this conversation, we explore why the real value of AI-driven design sits in the research phase, not just auto-generated wireframes. Hear, hear. How designers can use AI as a sparring partner and agent ecosystem to move faster through the double diamond, if you use the double diamond. But what skills and attitudes will matter the most for designers as we head closer towards 2030? Isn't that crazy, 2030? And the tough questions around bias, inclusion, data ownership, and the younger generation using these tools. What does this mean for us as practitioners as we get older? If you're a UX, product, or service designer wondering how to stay relevant and maybe even increase your value in an AI-saturated world, this episode is just for you. As always, if you enjoy this episode, please do leave a like, subscribe, share it out to your teammates. We tried to cover as many interesting areas in this podcast. I know you're going to find it interesting. Please do check out Behrad's work. He's fantastic. Check out his podcast and subscribe. But let's jump straight into the episode. Behrad Mirafshar, I am delighted to have you on the podcast. I listen to your podcast. That's what has become clear. And I'm delighted to have you on the podcast. So UX for AI is the name of your podcast. And, you know, those two letters coming together, A and I, are very, very popular amongst lots of business people at the moment. It seems all I have to do is open up LinkedIn for 10, 15 seconds and I'll see about 10 or 15 posts about AI at the moment. Before we jump into all of this interesting stuff around AI, I'd love to get a little bit of thoughts on who you are, what you do, and where you're from.
Well, thanks for first of all having me on, Gerry. It's been a pleasure. I'm a fan of the podcast. You are a very good host, so hopefully, I felt a bit nervous coming on, but hopefully I can do it justice. So about myself, I'm Iranian. I've been in Berlin for over 14 years. I have a master in design thinking and sustainable design from Sweden. Moved to Berlin in 2012-ish, and one thing led to another. Berlin startup scene was booming. Then I typically have this habit of going where the trouble is. So I got dragged into the Berlin startup scene, and I was part of founding team of 2 startups. One of them became a unicorn. I had a really, interesting exit over there. And, one thing led to another, became a consultant, and then, consulting companies. And then, in Germany, they say that as a freelancer consultant, you cannot make more than 150,000 per year. And at the end of the year, I don't know which year, 2019, look at my record and I realized, I think I blew past that threshold. And then my tax advisor said that, hey, you gotta turn this into a business.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, beginning of the first Corona pandemic, then I came up with this brilliant idea. It's time now. Now every company, every client that went radio silence on me because of the nature of that climate, everyone was panicking what to do with the whole remote situation. Then I seriously thought about turning into a business, starting with my trade name, and 2 years after finally turning into a company. And now I'm working as under Bonanza Design GmbH. I'm the managing director, still hands-on on certain projects.
Yeah.
And basically, we're a small boutique, so we don't want to grow big for the sake of growing big. We like to tinker with technology. AI is the elephant in the room, is a
Mhm.
supersonic tsunami that is sweeping the floor across the board.
Yeah.
And me as a UX designer, design thinker, started thinking about all of this and realized that it's a very massive opportunity here for designers, for product builders, leveraging AI. Also consulted with AI. I want to set up a podcast around this.
Yeah.
Go fetch all the keywords and trends and then return to me. Based on all the growing trends, you need to pick your podcast name as UX for AI because it's going to pop up in the Spotify search and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I went for that name.
Nice. Similar approach to me.
Yeah.
That was exactly my thinking when I was, right at the start of starting a podcast. One of the things that I notice on LinkedIn, and I'm actually trying to reduce my time on LinkedIn for this reason, because we're still kind of trying to form a lot of our understanding of where AI sits. And the term AI-driven design, I'd love to get your understanding on what that actually means from your own perspective beyond the hype. So you see on LinkedIn at the moment, like, it's all about AI-driven design. But I'd love to get your perspective on how you see that situation, how you see that phrase.
I think when AI-driven design, the topic popped up, and if you're thinking about creating wireframes or creating high-fidelity designs, it's a very missed opportunity. You actually touching the tip of an iceberg. I think the main value of a power of AI, especially in informing your design decision, is at the research phase. I think that's where you can tap into the power of AI. Because if you want to truly design a service that impact a city, a community, if you want to develop an application that is going to talk to government at the same time to people who need services from government, or you want to build an application that helps thousands of enterprise companies, you need to conduct the most comprehensive research campaign ever, because you need to understand different voices and different pain points, different personas. And before AI, you would have to deal with hundreds of reports and CSVs and Excel sheets and this and that. So now all you could do is to invest in AI agents that are equipped with Python scripts that basically go through 1,000 rows of reports and create blueprint for you in terms of where to look, what to look at, how to interpret the data. Basically, that's where I use AI the most right now.
Yeah. And with that comes a lot of risks. So when you have demonstrated experience in the world of research, you kind of know where the potential gaps are when you know what good looks like. If you don't have that, and I think this is where a lot of the kind of the dissonance, if you want, within the communities, where they're like, actually, a lot of clients feel like they might be able to potentially do research with it and ask it some questions and get some stuff back. And it might completely throw you in the wrong direction. And every now and then, of course, it might throw you in the right direction. But as a researcher, and I've researched for 10 years, you kind of build that understanding of, what it looks like, and what good looks like, and actually which potentially is a nice stimulant for potential range of questions which you could bring into the physical world. And I'd like to get your positioning on where you see, is is AI going to replace the research function, do you think? Or how I currently see it is it's like a massive brain and sparring partner, to quote Stefan Kiefer, in your pocket. Which one of those two do you think it is at the moment, from your own perspective?
Such a great question. I think so. AI is not going to replace the researcher. AI also not going to replace the researcher instinct as where the true value or true insights lies. AI can provide a blueprint or map of how you can navigate yourself across these many documents of reports. The way I'm using it is that, okay, give me an executive summary, give me a map of how I can navigate through all these documents. With that, then I could go to certain folder, open the certain files, go to specific row ranges and look at the data myself.
Yeah, so it's pretty much how I see it at the moment. And like I've trained people in AI and design, and that's kind of how I've really seen it. Like I think a lot of people kind of misconstrue the value of it, thinking that it's going to replace design fully. It's definitely not how I see it. I see it as amplifying a lot of the stuff that we do and allow us to get from A to B quicker, and understand and use these tools for the good. One of the pieces that I'd love to get your thoughts on, like when it moves from research into the other worlds of, say, ideation or prototyping, how are you currently using that in your own AI stack? What does that look like? And throw all the names out there, because we know it's not just GPT. We know there's all of these other tools, like we've got subscriptions probably coming out of our ears. But I'd love to hear what your current AI stack is.
I am using my current AI stack. I'm using Cloud Code.
I don't know that one, by the way. Just hands up. Cloud Code?
Cloud Code, yeah. I'm sort of like a bit more advanced than
most.
Using Lovables of the world.
Yeah.
I'm developing tools and simple to medium complexity applications too.
Yeah.
I'm using a tool also called UX Pilot in parallel with Figma Make.
Oh, nice. Did you say Claude or Cloud Code?
Cloud Code, sorry.
Claude. Oh, yeah, I know Claude. Okay. So Claude Code, and the other one is Figma Make.
Figma Make and UX Pilot. I'm using UX Pilot for wireframing. I see it as a good way of basically wireframing. I could do that on Cloud Code as well, but I'm using Cloud Code more on building application and building websites.
Nice.
When it comes to tools for design, actual craft of design, I think it's very evident for me that they are going to stay and they're going to only get better. And just now I'm been testing Gemini 3.
Yeah, it's just literally got the email from that earlier on.
It's so powerful when it comes to creating elegant websites.
Wow.
It has such a creative mind. I haven't seen it before. So I think designers needs to make peace with the fact that AI is going to help them with this part of the design more and more, because there is going to be only better models coming out, and this is not going to stop.
Yeah.
So you better to use them.
For sure.
Simply put.
I think someone said to me a few years ago, this is the worst that it's ever going to be with AI, depending on how you use that. And I was like, well, okay, fair enough. So depending on how you frame that question, It could be the best that it's ever been with AI if you're against it. But I mean, do you feel like there's the competitive advantage that designers have using AI? Like, what is that? Like, what is the competitive advantage for people using AI? What do you sell in as? Like, if you're marketing yourself in, because I know you've got your business at the moment, Bonanza, and you're really upfront with your clients. Since we're all in bed with AI, does that affect how you price with your clients?
I'm actually charging more.
Wow.
Because I'm providing more value.
Yeah.
Because I think there is this. I think a lot of designers and product folks need to basically see that as an opportunity to deliver more value.
Yeah, interesting.
And I just said from the current project I'm working on, one of our enterprise clients not only assign one branch to us, they're assigning another branch to us because they are seeing the disparity between what we are providing and what we can deliver to them versus other alternatives. So I think it's. I actually made a post about it almost a year ago, and it created a lot of. It blew up on LinkedIn. I think 500,000 views or something.
Oh, wow.
And that was the hook of the post, that if I were a UX designer and I could afford it, I would quit everything, and for 6 months I would learn how to use AI. And it's very true. Because to leverage AI, you need to understand that it's an entity with character. It's not a human being. It's an entity with character. You need to understand how best you can become friends with them and get them to work for you. And on the surface level, of course, you can go to Lovable, you can prompt it, you can go to Gemini, you can prompt it. But how you prompt it, is going to make a lot of difference for the output. And then when you look at every platform, for example, Claude, the platform I'm using, it offers you a lot of different innovative tools or technologies to use AI. For example, Claude offers, on Claude, you can create skills, you can create sub-agents, you can create hooks to remind AI to do certain things.
That's right.
You can create custom commands. You can create, the list goes on and on. So I would welcome everyone urgently to go deeper, few layers deeper, because every platform you look at, ChatGPT does it too. So for example, on Friday, I was working with a client, a friend of mine, a startup founder. He wanted to prototype his idea. So we've been going back and forth for 2 weeks, and so like pressing on building an app. Actually, I prototyped the idea using MCPs, which is another breakthrough technology, and Claude skills. So when you basically decide that, okay, I'm done staying above the surface, I want to go deeper, then you can actually create orchestration systems that you can talk, like multiple agents work together to give you an output. So these are the values. These are the true values of the AI.
So when it comes to automating those different pieces, I know you've got the hooks in Claude and stuff, but do you use services like Make to enable if this then that kind of scenarios?
I use Zeppelin a lot. I think Zeppelin amongst Zeppelin Make and an A10, I like Zeppelin because it's much simpler for me to understand. This automation platform like N8N or Make, for me, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's complex for overly complex. I prefer to, there is different ways of doing it. So I'm preferring to basically, instead of doing automation on Make, do the automation on Cloud Desktop where I am 24 hours. But I've seen peers doing magical stuff on Make and N8N. And I'm like, wow.
It is a learning curve, though.
It's a learning curve. And it's all about, can you afford it? Do you have the time to invest in it?
True, so 100%. So you mentioned there about if you had the luxury of taking 6 months off and really getting into bed with AI and, getting really, really good at it. Where did you go to get really good at it? And what kind of steps and what tips do you give to people who want to get even better at it than they currently are?
I think a great question you are asking. I think, I'm talking from a non-technical. I know enough, but my understanding of building modern applications and modern tech stacks compared to 2 years ago has improved significantly. I think modern web application 101 is what I would suggest to everyone. Just understand how modern applications get built. Understand a typical Next.js, React.js, file structure. So when AI returns to you a bunch of files, you can actually, find the relevant files that certain codes are being implemented right now in your I think that's where I start. That's where I'm actually investing a lot of time to get better at. How do APIs communicate to each other, right? Very important and a simple thing to understand. I think that would be the starting point. And then there is another track also beside that, is that how to prompt AI. What tools? First of all, pick your poison. ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Grok. I just cannot. Manus. There's too many of them. Like, pick your platform that you're comfortable with, and really invest in that platform. Really try to understand how you can, because you have one layer that would be the AI model. How the AI model is trained is one thing, and then how that specific platform and what capabilities that the specific platform offering to you would be another. This often, I think, people underestimating how important it is. And we think, okay, I can prompt anything. I can write anything. That's it. That's prompting. But no, actually, the way you prompt it, the limitation, the bounds that you introduce in your prompt is actually going to help you a lot of time down the road. And by a lot of time, it could be saving you days of extra work by just making a good prompt in the beginning. It doesn't need to be long. It needs to be very specific, have bounds and limitation, tell them what to do and not to do. I think these are the things that I would say. And then later down the path, automation, orchestration, using multiple agents, that's important, especially for designers and product builders. You want to basically go through the double diamond process over and over again. And that's a recipe to create different agents to help you across the double diamond process. Ideation agent, research agent, wireframing agent, front end agent. So these are the things that you could do. And then, you could by the end of it, you could see yourself as a person that could run an entire company by a bunch of agents. Yeah. Of course, you cannot remove yourself from the process. You cannot remove your team from the process. It doesn't mean that you just run these agents and they burn token for you and they return to you great results. More often than not, the result is garbage.
Yeah.
And it's because you let them do it. So you need to always intervene. So it's not like, okay, I'm now running all these agents and I can just go sit by the beach and sip, drink my cocktail. That's not going to happen. You have to sit and you have to really orchestrate. And conductor of our orchestra doesn't sit. Yeah. He's very engaged. We could say he's more engaged than the musicians. And
they're still running, but they're just going further, is why I say it. Everyone is still running, but with AI, you're just going further. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, that's one way of looking at it. I do have a question, though, because this is human-centered design, right? Do you feel AI is helping us getting closer to the truth of human-centered design? Or is it something that is maybe taking us away from it?
It can be both. More often than not, the second.
Yeah.
Because I've seen how I use AI and I've seen how others are using AI. Mm-hmm. If you let it run, you have to always intervene.
Yeah.
Always.
100%.
You need to make your own mark. You need to basically say, I do not like this. You need to have an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do this, the humanness of it will be lost. You're just getting result based on statistic and probability. And there is no human in it.
Yeah.
And also certain areas, I do not let AI, it's completely up to me. So for example, I was creating a sitemap for a massive, project. I've been doing it for 4 hours myself. I had the raw data and I created the mood board of all the potential ideas that AI, spit it out to me in my digital wall. But I was going through I was thinking, going through it, like, certain part of the process is you and you only.
Yeah. And that's very true. That's something that I still am very hands-on, even when it comes to research, creating surveys, setting up session guides and so forth. Like, it's still me at the end of the day doing it, but I'm using it like an assistant almost that really helps fill in my blind spots in the pieces. So yeah, you're right. It can go both ways, and it's not always one direction at all of the times, is my understanding. Because your podcast is called AI for UX, I'm keen to understand where you think the UX discipline is that something that you feel is more susceptible to shrinking or evolving, or even potentially exploding because of AI?
I think it's more like evolving and exploding.
Yeah.
I think the new generation of applications are more flexible, more intelligent, more tuned to your responses. Mm-hmm. Just to give you an analogy, is that a few years back, you would click on generate blog, generate content, generate report button. Then you would have to wait for a couple of seconds to minutes. And then you would get the report. You would get bothered. No, I didn't want this or this and that. Then you would just go to the interface, change certain parameters, report, generate again. On and on. And now what you could do, you can press stop, type in, hey, I want this and this and this. I see it in your initial report that's not reflecting, but do it again. So the interfaces and the UX is going from a linear input-output to input, bunch of inputs in the middle of the way, along the way till you get to the output. So actually, when you think about it, now we have a lot more human in the loop.
Yeah.
We are allowing users to be more involved and have more authority in generating the output. And that's what gets me really excited, how we can allow users to undo the responses, to affect the responses in real time. And I think it's the entire, every app that we know is going to go through that overhaul. So
100%.
And so I don't understand UX designers are worried about their jobs. Like, look, actually, there is going to be more job for you.
Yeah, just expect you to do more, I think, with the power of AI. Can I ask you a question? Because you mentioned there that, you know, you went from freelancers to setting up your business and you're hiring and you have designers that work with you. If we're managing, I have got a DeLorean in the back of my house here and we're going to go and just go for a little spin around and go 88 miles per hour. And where we're going, we're not going to need roads. And it's 2030, right? And you land back in Berlin. How is it going to change in your perspective when you're hiring for designers? You're mainly in the product design space, I understand from speaking to you. But what is it going to look like? What's the landscape going to look like in 2030 from your own eyes?
It's another good question. I think, you remember that in our time, at least I, got into design space in 2012. I was working with Photoshop for website design and then Illustrator for app design. Then after Balsamic, then after a few years, a Sketch on Mac introduced. After a few years, Figma introduced. But now when you look at it, it's every week there is a new tool. Every second week. Yeah. So I think the pace of keeping up with new technologies, new tools, is going to increase even more than this. It's going to saturate at some point, but it's going to be more and more better tools. So when I'm hiring for attitude.
Yeah. So 2030, we're in the future now, remember?
Yeah.
No one knows. We've parked the DeLorean at the back. No one's known. No. So will there be more bums on the seats in design studios, do you think?
I think so. Because I think there will be maybe overall headcount shrinks, but we still need designers, and I think designers will thrive in 2030. That they are willing to, they have this never-ending curiosity to learn new things.
Yeah, that's true. A proven and track history of learning and adopting.
And I met a lot of these designers and creatives. They have this hunger for, they get just excited about it. Oh, I can do this and this and this and this. And then when you task them, hey, can you do something with this new tool in 2 weeks? And they come back in 1 week, hey, I've done it. What can I do now? So I think the folks with this attitude and mindset are going to have a very exciting career from now till 2030 and 2030 onwards.
Okay. Well, I only have one piece of plutonium left to get us back to 2025, so we can't go to 2040. Unfortunately, maybe that's another episode. But we're going to go back to 2026 here now, right? Or 2025. Sorry, we're recording this in 2025. I'm already in 2026 in my head. I want to ask you, like I work with, government organizations and NGOs and so forth. And obviously they're sitting there and they may not have the power to flick the AI switch on and they're kind of waiting, and they may have AI in their pocket, they may have GPT or something going on, and that's creating a quandary around data and security and stuff, because they're seeing the potential in their pockets, but yet at their fingertips, at their desktops, they can't release that power. Sometimes I know they might just dip into GPT on their phones, but they're not meant to be doing that. So we're not going to talk about that. How do you see them being able to unlock AI within their organizations? So what can they do? And from your own perspective, what are the organizational traits where organizations have managed to flick that switch quicker? Because and I know the sooner they flick that switch, the better, but we need to make sure that the conditions are right. So there's two questions in that.
Local LLMs, I think that would be the answer. I think the LLMs on their own servers with bounds, because they're dealing with a lot of, I really do not want governments to use ChatGPT for my sensitive information. I am against it all the way.
Yeah.
So I think they need to have their LLMs.
Yeah.
It could be licensed, but it needs to be absolutely clear that data stays on their own servers, not going to leave it.
Yeah.
And I think that should be the case. It needs also, like, not only having LLMs on their own environment, the tooling around it. I think the reason that we are using ChatGPT or Claude versus open source LLM is that the tooling around it. When you ask ChatGPT to create a PDF for me, create a PDF for you, the tooling around the LLM makes you drawn to this platform. So I think I'm not too worried about LLMs to be in government environment, because that's already being done now. But tooling around it, I think, is more important. If, for example, employees want to make sense of the report and create a report out of another report, can that LLM provide it? Is there enough tooling around it? Because otherwise, still a lot of folks, I'm not judging their actions, have to go on their ChatGPT on mobile to do certain things, because the tooling around it allows them to do certain things that they couldn't do with the LLMs that are being provided in their organization.
Yeah. Okay. So a localized LLM is one way of kind of approaching that. But looking at the organizational conditions, like I was in yesterday with an executive leadership team, and they've got deprecated technology solutions living within the organization, and again, I'm talking about UX, and UX isn't even in the organization. It's an NGO, and they're hearing and they're expected to do an awful lot more with the same amount of budget each year. That's becoming more difficult. So from your experience working in primarily AI and product design, I'd love to get your thoughts on what you feel are the true conditions when you know that you're ready to flick that switch. What does that look like from your own eyes?
I work predominantly with traditional businesses, enterprises that have been around for 30 years, 20 years. I think data sovereignty, owning your own data streams, is something that still in 2025 a lot of companies are facing. We had a client that simply they were using a legacy software from early 2000 that wouldn't allow to capture their customer data. They didn't have any access to it. So if you cannot access your customer data, how can you use AI? So the first step, and I will say that if you're hearing this and you're resonating with this, you don't need AI right now. You need to own your data streams. You need to basically be able to pipeline them very well, because AI needs data.
Yeah.
Without data, there is no AI.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say when I am talking to potential projects and clients, and what I see first and foremost is that there are certain crucial data streams to provide certain services that they don't have any control over. So first, control over data.
Yeah. So being able to get a single picture or profile of whoever it is you're speaking to, if they can do that, maybe there's a case there for them to, their data is in a decent state to be able to actually elevate the use of AI, is what I'm hearing. Is that right?
It is. And then also, like, we talk about UX design. What is UX design? User experience design. And what do we do as first and foremost? We create user personas. We create a characteristic of different user types. So if there is no data available, how can UX designers look into your data and understand who the users are?
Yeah.
What do they do? So it's all everything. Like digital transformation, I think first and foremost start with owning your data and being able to pipeline them really well to any AI agent that you want to use, or dare I say, to any UX designer you want to get involved or researcher to make sense of this, to create experiences that will serve your customers better.
Yeah. Well, that's really solid advice, Behrad. There's so many things that are cropping up into my mind as we're speaking. And I know people that are listening that we've had discussions about AI, and I'd love to get an understanding of your own thoughts around what potentially scares you about AI. There's a bit of bias in that. I'm determining that there is something that scares you.
I think what scares me the most about AI is that I'm a father.
Okay.
I'm very mindful about how younger generation using AI.
Mm-hmm.
All these models are biased. They're made of weight and biases. Some researchers defined.
Yeah.
They're biased to offer you an answer when they don't know the answer, because that's how the reward mechanisms are defined for them. So when it comes to topics like legal, health, mental health, I'm very worried. How we are the adults here. We can sometimes I cannot even tell whether this is a good advice or not. So if I cannot tell that this is a good advice, how can a 13 years old, 14 years old, 17 years old can tell?
Yeah.
And this is something that is very worrying for me. And I think there needs to be more clarity and guidelines over how younger generation are using it. That is on the macro level. On the macro level, I think for-profit incentive that a lot of these companies have. I don't know if you notice when you use ChatGPT, especially with ChatGPT 5, when you when you prompt it, it returns to you. It always ask you a question: do you want me to do this for you also?
Yeah, that's right.
So why? Because it creates more engagement, stickiness, more time on app. That's a metric the likes of Sam Altman could use and raise 100 billions of new investment.
Yeah.
So when for-profit incentives become a factor, a driving factor, then truth-seeking or providing accurate answer will become secondary.
Yeah. I definitely hear you in the mental health space, and I see the shift in the user experience in the responses in the last number of weeks. And that's something I observed when I was training last week. There was a few different shifts as well. I was training people from the Middle East last week, and we noticed the gaps in the room was so quickly. They said, like, oh, how it responds in Arabic versus how it responds in English are completely different. and it's always better to prompt in English at the moment. So how do you see us elevating the marginalized voices and the voices that aren't as well developed within the AI world to ensure that we're not just reaffirming and elevating a white colonial, here I go again, people are saying a white colonial, potentially American Silicon Valley / British imperialistic view of the world. That's something that we all practice within human-centered design, that everyone's equal, everyone is everyone is sort of given a fair chance, a fair go, as we'd say in Australia. But yet AI isn't there yet. Like, what do we need to do to ensure that we're covering off all those gaps?
Right. It touches upon what I said. It just because these are like for-profit. OpenAI was a non-profit turned into for-profit.
Yeah.
So you would see how lucrative it is that an organization that was actually made for non-profit, they see the potential, upside of turning into for-profit, and they just lost all their values. So this is how worried I am because all these companies are for-profit, they will look at the regions that they pay the most subscription.
Sure.
Right. So certain regions, certain parts of the world that are using these models are for free. On the free tier, I think in the near future, they won't have access to it because the honeymoon of AI is over and every token counts. So they won't receive these models anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they may have to rely on open source or models that are from China, which is a lot cheaper than models from Western countries. And also, to your point regarding voices and marginalized voices, I'm afraid that's not going to be addressed because it's not part of the profit scheme.
The business model. Yeah.
The business model. And I think the gap that we've been trying to fight for in the service design community for years is going to ever increase with the AI because it's a supersonic tsunami, and it's a cash cow machine. It's not a cash cow machine. It's just never-ending printing machine.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You don't have any incentive to give power to the marginalized voices.
I know. I mean, I'm trying not to end this episode on a downer. So we're covering off lots of the negative aspects of it, but like we know that there's a potential there, and we know from a practitioner perspective, there's things that we need to be across and things we need to be aware of. Behrad, like, it's been fascinating to speak and to peek behind, how you're seeing and how you're using AI over the last number of years. Is it okay if I put a link to your LinkedIn? I know you're hyperactive on LinkedIn. Not hyperactive, you're very active on LinkedIn. You're not on there like doing TikTok dances, but I know you're very active. So if it's okay, I'll put a link to your LinkedIn in there. I know people would love to follow you and learn more and follow your journey as well.
I would appreciate that. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I think this conversations, it's not negative, I would say. I sympathize and appreciate what you're trying to do, Gerry, is that we have to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't talk about this stuff, no one would notice, and we need to pay attention to where these things is going.
100%. And that's why I love bringing in people with similar but yet different perspectives. It's really valuable to hear your own thoughts on this. So again, listen, I thank every guest that comes on on the podcast for their time and energy, and also, as I said, the vulnerability of being able to go left and right and being able to ask you questions as they come to the top of my mind. So I really appreciate you giving me that opportunity, Behrad.
My pleasure. Thank you.